Today's video is sponsored by myself and my webshop tsmc.shop. Please go check it out. The new website is now live and we're constantly adding new products to get you a better shopping experience and the best possible tools and materials for your hobby needs.
In the past, you've seen me build a couple of kits from Kitbox and PZY Models, more specifically the BMW M3 and the Porsche 911 GT3 RS. This one is again a collaboration between PZY and Kitbox, but also with Encore. Now, the special thing about this kit, specifically for my channel, is that it is a race car. I don't usually build race cars. I don't really dislike them, but I don't really have that big of a passion for them either, so I usually just refer back to my same old thing, and that is street cars. Now in this case, the design of this one looks really cool with some of the anime styling and all of the decaling all over, plus I'm a big fan of BMW and the Z4 as well. So I figured let's give this one a try. First of all, I'm just going to go for the unboxing, and then at a later stage I will start the building. But I won't start the build directly after finishing the unboxing. I still have some other projects to do, as you're probably aware of. Now, one thing I do want to note, if you're interested in this kit, I will be leaving links in the description down below. They have given me this kit to review for you guys and also get you interested to purchase one, of course, so do check those links out. The second thing I want to know is, do you want to see me do this as one of these versions that is included in the kit? Or should I build another version, or maybe even go for a street car with the racing car exterior and some bits there, but just clean it up generally and give it more of a street car vibe with maybe a normalized interior? Or should I just stick to the full race car vibes? With that being said, let's go to the unboxing, see what's inside, and then go over the parts in a bit more detail. Let's start off with the instructions. Nothing really special, just very clear and simple instructions. They do come in 2 languages, luckily, because I have no idea what that says, and this I'll be able to figure out. It shows you all of the parts that are included in the kit and that you should have, and you can already see, if you haven't noticed just yet, that there's 2 sets of tires and that there is also an extra spare hood, which you can display separately. Then on the instruction side, on the other side, you have some of the photo etch pieces, the clear parts, some of the metal parts, and the seat belts, and a couple of decal sheets that are included as well. Then you just go through the instructions one by one, deciding which version you want to build, and therefore also deciding which colors needs to go on which parts. Aside from that, just simply follow everything, build along, and you should be fine. So earlier on, I asked which version you'd like to see me build. If it's this one, something entirely different, or a street car, please do let me know down in the comments below. Now, just to get some things out of the way first, this is a curbside kit, and with these resin style kits, that is usually the case. Now, I get a lot of complaints in the comment that these kits are way too expensive, and I understand your point of view, but there's a couple of things to keep in mind. They produce as many parts as they can to keep the cost at a acceptable level. If they were going to add an engine to that as well, the parts would pretty much double. The research and development cost would double, the production cost would double, and the kit would be twice as expensive as well. And with resin kits, it's a lot harder to get all of these separate components to fit well, specifically if you start adding thin hoods, opening doors, trunks, etc. So keep that in mind when you leave your comment down below. If you're not interested in these kits, I can fully understand. as they are far from cheap and also far from what you're used to with a injection molded kit. Now, nonetheless, these kits do look really good, and they offer kits that would otherwise not be available at all. So the chassis on this one is pretty flat, since it is a race car, and on the underside or on the inside of the engine bay, there's no detail as there is no engine to be seen. There are some separate components like the front splitter and a small amount of suspension parts that can be seen from the underside. This is a separate piece just to make it easier probably for casting and also assembly. And then there is some parts for some ducting and some radiators, intercoolers as well. And of course some of the suspension bits, or yeah, let's call them suspension bits, and the brakes too. There are some center locking nuts for, I believe, on the wheels. Really nice and small detail, good to see in here. Then there is some, some disc brakes too. Front and rear are a bit different. The fronts have a small hub attached to them as well. I believe that is done because this one is capable of steering. Now, as you can see, for those that the steering is also added in here too. Now, this is something that usually has not been seen on these resin style kits, but it is a nice small little development that they start to add in here, and I hope to see this more often. Now, to finish those off, there are some calipers as well. The fronts and rears are different, both a very similar size, but just a small difference in shape. To finish the chassis side of things off, there are some wheels and tires included too. There is one set of wheels and two sets of tires. One does not come with any writing on the sides, and the other one comes with a Yokohama tire. They are both slicks, and I think they are pretty much the same sidewall or design, so to speak. The only difference is the writing on the sidewall, and that probably has to do with which version you're going to be building. Moving up from the chassis to the interior, there is a nice interior tub. Since this is a race car, it is fully stripped, and therefore it does not have a lot of the smooth paneling that you're used to seeing on street cars that is covered by carpet. So in the trunk area, there is some nice detail for where the panels usually need to be, and some indents and stuff there as well for the structural stuff, including some additional detailing like wiring and hoses that run through there. Some bare components for the center console that isn't really there, so this is pretty much just the chassis and some strengthening and reinforcement. Really nice, clean, not overdone. Does leave a bit of room for additional detailing if you want to add it, but just as a base, this is really good to start from already. There are some more bits and pieces to that interior, as you can see right here. There is some components for the main bigger parts. And when I say bigger parts, I mean the door cards, the flat racing door cards for both sides, of course. Then some other things. I guess some kind of gas tank. Excuse me for not knowing these things. Like I said, I'm not a race car guy, and I don't really know the history behind this car. I just think it looks really cool, and that's the kind of guy I am. There's some more bits right here. I believe that has to do with that previous bit. Of course, the single seat racing bucket. Really cool, nice design. And the race car dashboard. In addition to those bigger parts, we also have some smaller ones. Now, these are mainly just the roll cage pieces, and by the looks of it, some more hoses to add some additional detailing there. I'm just going to leave these in the bag, as they are simply just smooth metal tubes, resin tubes that simulate metal tubes, and during the build, I'll go over these more. But by the looks of it, they look really nice and crisp, and should be a cool roll cage. Now, aside from those bigger parts, there are some smaller detail bits as well, if I can get them out of the bag, of course, that is. And this again goes for some different versions too, I believe, as you have this one for a shifter, but this for the steering column. There is another one right here. I believe these are both for a type of shifter, but not exactly sure, but just a different one. Some other bits and bobs, a small screen, I believe. Some more hosing and wiring for additional detailing. The pedals themselves, usually they are detailed from just the front, but these are also detailed from the side, which gives it a lot more depth. That's a really good thing to see that they spent time and attention on these as well, as usually that is where the money is saved on other kits. Some more bits and bobs right here. A really nice steering wheel with a lot of detail. This center part is one of those separate screens. Good to see, gives it a bit more depth and makes it a lot easier to detail. Then some more of those smaller parts. Some of the air ducting and other bits. I believe this is a part of the steering column. And then some of the final details, the fire extinguisher and the where you mount the pedals. I'm not sure what this is called, but probably has something to do with the brakes and the gas. Again, sorry, I don't know all of these things by name. From the interior, we can move on to the exterior. We have a couple more bags of parts, and of course the main exterior as well, but that is going to come a bit later. Now, since you've seen that this kit comes in two versions, you have one with a side exhaust, if you can see it right here, and then one with that hole filled in. So you can choose which one you want to use, of course. It also has some aero bits for on the rear. This is just a flat spoiler, and this one has a bit of a curve into it. They are both mounted in the same position, so that doesn't change. It's just the shape of the wing that changes. Now, I like this one a bit better because it fits the styling of the car a bit more. But again, depending on the version, you'll have to choose which one to use. And to finish that section off, there is also a fully built-in rear window, which just makes it one flat piece. Just fits in on the rear window section here, of course. It is a tiny bit too big, so a little bit of sanding is required, but I'd rather have it a bit too big than too small. And this one will then be done with a decal or painted silver if you choose, but you can also go for just the clear part. But again, that depends on the version you're going to choose. Then there are some chrome and black chrome plated parts too. Of course, the kidney grills, the taillight inserts, and the headlight buckets as well. The headlight buckets are done in a black chrome-ish finish. I'm not really sure if that's accurate. It probably is. Kind of looks a bit strange, but of course it's missing a lot of details and add-ons that will need to be put on with some photo etch and some clear parts. Then there is a small bag, which I'm going to be leaving closed with a gear shifter, probably for that second version I showed you earlier. Some screws to assemble it all, some other bits and bobs for antennas, and other knobs probably, and some exhaust tips too. There is a final bag of exterior bits as well. This one again comes with some parts to go for fully solid windows instead of the clear parts. The side view mirrors, and those are optional. I really like these because these simulate the street car, and these are of course the race car ones. Both look really nice, and again, depending on the version you're going to be building, you'll need to choose which one to use. And some more bits and bobs, the antenna, and I believe these are exhaust tips too, but since there are some metal ones included for this kit too, I believe these are not necessary to use, and I'd rather use the metal ones. Now, even though the hood is included and fully molded into the body, there is one molded separately as well. Now, this is just a display piece. There is a display stand included as well, which you can see underneath here. A lot of the decals that are on this side, just to get it fully covered and have it displayed next to the model, I believe. It's a really nice, neat additional detail to see. I haven't seen it before, not really sure why, apart from it being cool, but yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. For the clear parts, as usual with resin kits, you get one that is a molded part with some clear resin, and then in this case 2 small sheets with pre-painted or pre-printed thinner parts. I'm not a big fan of this, as you know by now, but it's better to have something than nothing. And the good thing is that it is pre-printed or pre-painted, whatever you want to call it, so you don't have to do that. And this looks like a sharper finish than I would ever be able to do by hand, so that is a nice thing, saves a lot of time, and it looks a lot better. Now, there are 2 versions for the front window, and I think both of them are exactly the same, but one might be different, or a correction, or just a spare part, which is already always nice to have. Of course, the side windows, 2 smooth ones and one with the small latch entry hole for some things to be passed through. And then also the rear window, which you can choose for the window part or the solid part that I showed you earlier. Now, as far as decals go, since this has 2 versions in it, which I've mentioned just a couple of times in this video, you get the base standard decals for the logos, some trim bits, and some mirror parts. And then a couple bits for the interior, which are the same for both versions, with some really nice carbon fiber patterns, and also some of the exterior bits. This is the main one, and if I were to build one of these 2 versions, I'd probably go for this one as it looks a bit more special. I really like the design of these parts here, and with the flashing and vibrant colors, that's a pretty cool version to go for if you ask me. Now, there is also a Red Bull version in here as well that I'll just take out right now for you. It is nice to see this version included, as it's probably really iconic to this car. But overall, if I look at the design, it doesn't really speak to me all that much. It's a bit boring, the color isn't really that great, and it just has a couple of Red Bull logos on it. So that doesn't really jump out all that much. This does have some more bits for the interior, the front splitter, and some other carbon fiber bits all around, and also the decals for the tires without the lettering already stamped in them. If you're familiar with resin kits, then you're probably familiar with the insane amount of photo etch that is included in those kits too. Now, this is partially where some of the money goes, as photo etch is pretty expensive, but it is a really nice add-on as far as details go, because some parts are really, really additional as far as detailing goes compared to resin or plastic injection molding. The details are a lot sharper. Some parts simply are a lot thinner and smaller, and therefore the detail is more convincing. And also with some of these mesh bits, it's pretty much impossible to do that with plastic or resin molding. And now you have a part that is actually see-through instead of a solid piece from the back with some stamping on front. There are some details for on the brake calipers as well, which just look a lot sharper. And in some cases on these types of brake calipers, this actually is a metal part. Well, the entire caliper is metal, but partially painted, so the resin piece can be painted, and this can then be put on top for the sanded off metal piece that is still visible. Some additional parts are just simply way too small to be cast in any type of resin or plastic, so instead of not having it, they decided to add it to this photo etch sheet. There is a small plaque as well, and then a couple other sheets too with some additional detailing. And then finally, we have the body. Most of this is molded in one piece, apart from all of these smaller add-on pieces. So most of this is not molded in one piece, but you probably know what I mean. So on this case, you have the side skirt not included. I've shown that earlier. Comes in 2 versions, so it's a lot easier to just have that as a separate piece. The rest of the bumpers, front and rear, are already molded on. Panel lines look nice, crisp, and clean, and don't even need all that much attention, if I'm honest. Maybe a little bit of precautionary scribing, but that is probably overdone as well. A bit of sanding. No incorrections to be found. Incorrections? That's not the word I'm looking for, but probably pretty sure that's not a word at all. Incorrections. I can't get to it. No damaged pieces. I'm lost for words here. It just looks really, really good. A lot of detail on all of the sides. Really smooth. A bit of sanding, ready for paint and decals, and move on to assembly. Now again, thank you very much PZY Model, Kitbox, and Encore for sending me this kit to show it to you guys. If you are interested in purchasing one of these, I will be leaving a link to the Facebook group from PZY Model in the description down below. You can contact them directly and they will sort you out.